Welcome. This is the English learners and migrant students in the CTE classroom setting breakout session. I do come to you from South Dakota Statewide Title III and Migrant Consortia. I am an ESL instructional specialist with Black Hills Special Services. Any other introductions we need, Kara?
Nope, you just introduced yourself, so I don't have to. So
All right. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today. While I do work for Black Hills, I come to you from Ipswich, South Dakota. So I just wanted to let you know that's where I live, is Ipswich. So here's kind of an agenda for this session. It's kind of big. We want to just go over, can you all see my screen okay, hopefully? Introductions and some basics about English learners, how to create a welcoming classroom, some strategies, some vocabulary, technology, grading, family engagement, and then I'll have time to answer any questions. This is a basic, brief overview, obviously, of all of these topics. I could probably talk for 6 hours on each one of these topics. So if there is a topic that interests you or your district, we can always expand on it at a later time, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and just jump right in. This is kind of a map of the travels for our consortium, pretty much everywhere. And we work from these goals. Our goals for our consortium are to raise the language proficiency of South Dakota English learners, provide effective professional development, support family and community engagement. That's the Title III, that would be the English learners goals. And the migrant grant goals that we work from is we want these students reaching challenging academic standards, graduating or completing a GED, whatever their goal area would be, and preparing them for responsible citizenship, further learning, and productive employment. And I think that CTE classroom settings can be really, really effective and just overall wonderful for these students. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what do you do, how do you approach the challenges that you do face with students who are new to country, new to our language, and so on. Okay. So this is kind of a map, or not a map. I showed you the map earlier. This is a list of our districts. We have 4 instructional specialists in our consortium. Gwyneth Dean Whitty Fosnot is our coordinator. Jean Larson, Tanya Vitek, and myself. We traveled in 95 districts, and here is a list of the districts. You might see your district on here. Look it over really quick. Okay. And this is a little bit about what we do. We work for equity in education. We work to eliminate obstacles for students. We want them to succeed. You want them to succeed. We work with teachers and administrators to help build that equity for these students, not equality. Look at these little people on this, in this image. Equality would mean everybody having the same stool so they can watch that ball game. How's that working for them? Not so much, right? We look more for the equity. We want all students getting what they need in order to succeed, okay? We want all students to be given the opportunity to achieve their potential. They might need different things. And we're here to support teachers in their busy, busy classrooms so that we can help get these students what they need. And we have a website I want you to be aware of before we get into the content. It is sdtitle3.org. We do serve 95 districts, but the website is open to anyone. And there is a tab for administrators, English language development teachers, classroom teachers, families, and migrant. Okay. All right. Now is a time where I get to hear a little bit from you. I do want to know who's a part of our session today. And so we'll take turns. I want you to give your name, your role in your district, the district you work in, and the number of years working with English learners, just to get an idea of who we have in our session. Will that work for us to do introductions?
Yes, I just need to unmute them here.
Okay, thank you. All right. We can go in any particular order. I won't, let's see, how about we start, I don't know, I don't have full names, I don't think, on some of these. So go ahead, someone just get started. Do some introductions so we know who we have with us today.
Okay, I can go ahead and start. My name is Cindy, and I'm in the Mitchell School District, and I am the culinary arts and nutrition teacher And I've been working just with English learners just for the past few years.
Thank you.
Charlene Arns, and I'm at Yankton School District, and I'm the Family and Consumer Science instructor. And I've just had kids the last few years also.
Okay.
Marisa Shannon, also from Mitchell. Hi, Cindy. I've had in the past exchange students and things like that, but this is the first year where we've had like a huge influx of like 10, 12 EL students. And so it really changed the way we taught.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
My name's Jen Witt. I teach third grade in Webster School, area school, and this year I will have a few students in my class with limited English, and truthfully, I
I think we
don't know much about it, so it's making me a little nervous because.
Yeah.
I
gotcha. Webster is one of my districts, so you can feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Good.
Yeah. Actually, any of you, if you have my email and you have questions, feel free to reach out anytime. So we'll be working from behind our desk a little more than we're used to, and we like working with people, and so keep us busy. Send those questions and we'll help you work on some projects. So next, I think we have, is it Teresa? Have we heard from her?
No, my name's Teresa Bowden. I work for the Aberdeen School District. I'm a school counselor. This is my third year, going into my third year of education. So I do have some EL students that I have in my guidance lessons and just want to help them be more engaged.
Thank you. Very good. Anyone else I missed? Thank you for introducing yourselves. It means a lot to me to kind of get to know you a little bit before we move into the content. I have had the joy of working with a migrant summer school program this week, and I will tell you, I've been very grateful to get back with students. There's a lot of anxiety to returning to the classroom. I know that maybe some of you are sharing some of that when I hear about culinary or arts and things like that. I'm sure you're wondering how that's going to look in these uncertain times that we are in. We had 10 little migrant students in our summer school this week, starting yesterday, and it is a little different, and there's some anxiety with some teachers and the parents and all of that as well. So working through those issues will be another lens to look at for this. So, all right, some basics. I just wanted to let you know, you might hear ELs, English learners. We refer to them as ELs. So if you hear ELs, that's what we're meaning as English learners. WIDA is changing that language, of course. They got to make something new. And you might hear MLL. They're switching to multilingual learner, okay? I don't know, I think it's because English isn't, they were calling it ESL for a while, but English wasn't always the second language. And a lot of these kids have more languages. So they're calling them MLLs now. That's very, very new. It hasn't really caught on with me. You'll see me referring it to every English learner as EL still. But WIDA is using the multilingual learner status. WIDA is the one who's responsible for giving us our English language proficiency standards. And so you can find all things language if you go to wida.wisc.edu. And we are a consortium member state with WIDA. And we, every winter, give these students an Access 2.0 test, and that comes from WIDA. WIDA has a lot of professional development opportunities that we can all take part in as well, okay? Language acquisition levels. This is very important when you're just learning to work successfully with English learners. English learners are not all the same. Some come to you as newcomers, having very, very little experience with the English language. And those would be the students in level 1, they're called, or the pre-production stage. You might even notice that there's a silent period, and that can last 0 to 6 months. They might not say anything. I know when I first started working with ELs, you kind of take it personally after a while. You're being really positive, they're still not responding, but it just takes time. There's minimal comprehension. They might draw things or point to things or nod yes or no, but it can go on for about 6 months sometimes. Sometimes it's a week. I mean, you just never know. Then moving on to level 2, early production is about 6 months to 1 year. You're still only going to get 1 to 2 word responses, limited comprehension, present tense verbs, keywords. Speech emergence would be the next level, level 3. This is when we start thinking that our students are kind of good to go. If you're not sure what level your students are in, make sure to reach out to your, I still call them ESL teachers, make sure to reach out to them because you need to know what level your students are regarding their English language development. It's very, very important. Level 3s though are easily, you get confused about those guys because they look like their language is really, really formed. The problem is they lack the academic language needed for your classroom. So they're giving you the simple sentences. Sometimes they get jokes, sometimes they don't. Their social English has come along, but they still need quite a bit of support to have academic success, okay? Levels 4 and 5, excellent comprehension, few grammatical errors, and then advanced fluency. Level 4s and 5s don't need a whole lot extra for language support. But those 3s, they're confusing because their social language has come along and you think they're fine, but they're not fine academically. Okay, any questions about that? If you have questions you're not wanting to share because I talk a million miles an hour, you can also put them in the chat, or Kara will like hold up her hand and say, slow down, right? So you go ahead and just let me know. I want to make sure to get to everything and your questions during this time. But if you have anything, just feel free to shout out. Okay, the important considerations. There is an annual plan that's put together every year for your English language learners, and it's called the Language Acquisition Plan. And this plan helps you understand what to do for accommodations for these students. And so if you would really, really take time to visit with your ESL teacher about what's on the language acquisition plan, what accommodations are successful. And maybe if you get like someone who says, I don't know, there's not much on there, maybe you can offer some input. You know, you get to know these students in a CTE setting often better than some of the other students because they are engaged. They're engaged in what you're teaching them, and you really get an idea of what works well for that student in the areas of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So make sure you collaborate with that ESL teacher and provide opportunities for your students to listen, read, speak, and write. And one other thing you need to keep in mind is even in the hands-on classes, make sure they're not only listening to you and then doing things. They do need opportunities to read, speak, and write. A lot of times there are safety tests, which we'll get into next with CTE type courses. And you have to be able to provide language supports and scaffolds to help them be successful with those tests as well, okay? We want them actively engaged, but we also want effective communication. So we have to keep in mind that you might be translating things for their families or for the students, or having an interpreter do that as if they're newcomers. But what you need to ensure is that they're actually understanding and receiving the information. So I always say effective communication would be two-way communication. Always put a question in whatever note you have that requires some sort of feedback, so you know they've received the message and then they've tried to communicate with you in a way that works. And we'll get into communication methods with technology resources in the upcoming slides. Another thing we need to be keeping in mind is even if they come to you with a limited or formal or interrupted formal education, we still need to work as hard as we can to get them accessing grade level content and skills, but just providing lots of language support, okay? Teaching academic vocabulary with multiple ways of instructing and using research-based vocabulary methods is very important as well. All right. One of the biggest things I think whenever I do any professional development and everything, I say one of the best things you can do would be creating a welcoming classroom for your students. Because if they feel welcome in your room, they'll want to move mountains for you and for themselves, okay? The welcoming classroom piece, that social emotional piece, is probably one of the most powerful things you can do for the students in your class. First step, learn their names. that can be hard sometimes. If you've worked with English learners, you might be aware that sometimes pronouncing their name is tricky. The 10 students I have in summer school this week, there's a few of them, I will say their name and their little friends will giggle because I'm not saying them correctly. And I work really hard and I tell them that, you know, it's very important to Mrs. Kilber that we get these names pronounced correctly. Keep helping me work on it, you know, because some of the names are just a little bit more difficult for us to pronounce. Okay, correct spelling is important also. Offering one-on-one assistance when possible. Assigning a peer partner. Another really important piece is a visual daily schedule. Okay, a visual daily schedule is so powerful. I've seen it work so well in so many schools, and I would recommend that highly. A visual daily schedule. Also, the use of interpreters or translated documents translated documents, I should say. Inviting culture into your classroom. If you teach culinary arts, that's excellent. Think about some of the foods that are common for the students you teach and just try really hard to work those in. That's a great way to work in their culture into your classroom. Establishing effective two-way communication. I talked about that before. Labeling classroom objects, especially if you teach culinary arts. When they go home, they don't talk about foods in English, most likely. They use their primary language. And so most English learners I know always need help learning the names of foods. They don't just know those, okay? Also, a big thing to keep in mind is helping ELs follow established rules. I've heard many, many English learners give testimony about their first experiences in American schools and how they reacted in a way that their background experiences shaped them to do. But sometimes those things were not consistent with what we expected for rules. For example, one of the students talked about how in one of their classes, and I think it was actually a home economics type class, family and consumer science type class, he was taking an apple with him. And the teacher said, you can't do that. Well, he had been in a refugee camp for 10 years. And if you wasted food, you would have had severe punishment. And so we just have to be careful and realize that sometimes the background experiences of these students are quite different from what we are expecting of them now, and helping them follow the established rules, but also having empathy for their experiences. That's pretty huge as well. And maybe some of you have stories that you can share just like that one, because it's quite powerful to hear these students, how they're not trying to be disrespectful and not go by the rules, but their background experiences are just so different from ours that sometimes they're inconsistent with what we expect, okay? Use visuals, be consistent, but also be empathetic. Always communicate your expectations in a positive manner. If they don't have any English language abilities yet, your nonverbal language and how your tone of voice and your facial features are showing, it's going to be huge. New challenge will be if we're all in masks. That nonverbal language will be less and less likely to be able to be visible, and that's going to be super difficult. So just be aware, try to be as positive as possible, and keep that tone and that nonverbal language really positive. Another thing that's super important for creating a welcoming classroom for these students would be cooperative learning strategies. And surprisingly, the students know how to hold each other accountable and know their strengths. And a lot of times you can put these students in a nice group that will help them show what they know, because remember, they're not lacking intelligence. These students are just lacking language, okay? Any questions so far? Okay. CTE programs can be the key to helping close an opportunity gap faced by students who are learning English and have academic achievement gaps. CTE courses are hands-on generally and can be a super effective way to accelerate English language acquisition. Anytime students are interacting and are hands-on, their English language skills are more likely to just absolutely take off. So just know that just by providing the course that you teach and providing hands-on activities, you are doing excellent things for these students because they are experiencing language along with interacting with what you are teaching them, okay? They can be an asset to the workforce as well. Your class can truly make a positive impact in their lives and increase their career options. That's pretty cool. So thank you for what you do. Okay, language and vocabulary. The biggest thing I can tell you for CTE coursework or any coursework would be use visuals. It's super important to use those visuals. I always tell the story. I had one district I worked with and they said, the student just wants to interact with their classmates, wants to be involved in extracurriculars, and the junior class is the class this kiddo was in, and he wants to work at the concession stand. So they tried and tried and tried to teach him how to work at a concession stand. And I said, did you take him to the concession stand and show him the items? No, we can't do that because it's locked up. Okay, I use visuals. It was unbelievable, just the power of showing the pictures of the things the students would be selling and just bringing up video clips and anything like that, making it visual for these students, because remember, they're not lacking intelligence, they just lack our language. So keeping on and talking through things isn't going to help unless you attach a visual that they can somehow connect to, okay? Another thing in CTE classes, pair your words to your actions. So if you're measuring something in a culinary arts class, as you are talking about it, be doing it, obviously, okay? Pre-teaching vocabulary can also be a pretty cool thing to do if you have an ESL teacher who's looking for some content that maybe the students don't know the names of something, that maybe they can help you with pre-teaching vocabulary and key terms that would be necessary in the class. Anytime you can build background knowledge. I know many students throughout our state who don't have background knowledge with restaurants, with kitchens, with homes like we know it. We have some students coming to us who come from tribal communities and they hunt, and their shelters have been much different than they experience. Their stories are just much, much different. So a lot of times it's all about building that background knowledge and those experiences for those students as well. Video clips can be super effective. Translation apps are important. At this time, I want to hear from you. What do you use to teach vocabulary and promote language in your classroom? Do we have anyone brave? I don't have any gift cards or anything to give out for anyone, so no rewards, just share, please.
Okay, so one of the things that I've done is like pictures would probably be one of the main things. And so my other students may have been testing on something completely different, and I kind of took them back to extreme basics. And maybe I did, like, you know, when you're a little kid and you got to do the memory game. Well, instead of flipping them over, they just had them upright, so they had to match the picture to the word, and that was part of their test. One was I had, like, for setting a table, having the items there and actually set the table. And so kind of not so much doing the paper pencil stuff, but doing, and then I have nice where I have a little bit smaller classroom, so I can just have them go sit at those tables, kind of separate, but yet we're still together. And they've done some things like that.
Very good. And to take that a step further, I would encourage, get an native English speaking buddy and do a peer partner and go with that. That's excellent. That's an excellent way to assess. They're still showing what they know, but you're eliminating the language piece from being a barrier. Nice job. Thank you, Cindy. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Some technology, some pieces that have been super helpful for me in doing what I do. In fact, I've actually built some pretty fun relationships with some parents. Oh, I went too far. Would be the talking points, language line, language link, say hi, and remind. Just put in the chat if you use any of these or other apps for communicating with your families. Say hi is probably my favorite. Not everyone thinks it's their favorite, but it's super easy to text or call and use the the translation piece. And I'm telling you, all my Spanish speaking families especially, it's been really fun to get to know them. And some of them are migrant populations and they go back to California, and we can still communicate by text using some of these methods because it has the translation built in, and it's fun to build those relationships with those students. You speak it in English and then you just push translate and it sends them the message in a way they understand. And then they say the message in their language and they push send to Bobbie Kilber in English, and we can communicate just like that. And it's been really fun to do that. A lot of people have been using Google Translate and things like that. I had not had very much success with that in past years. When we had a foreign exchange student of our own from Taiwan, the language was about 40 to 60% comprehensible by the time we would translate it. But these apps here that I wrote down seem to have been super effective. And I know Google Translate has made major gains. I think Microsoft has a product too that's made major gains, and I need to probably revisit using them, but these are just some of my favorites. So if you have some that you use, please put that in the chat so we can all share your ideas. The next thing I want to talk about that teachers in classrooms always wonder, what do I do? And that would be like grading and assessments. And I'm glad that Cindy mentioned something about assessing in a different way. If you have newcomers, matching pictures is where it's at. They are still accessing the grade level content that everybody else is, but you're eliminating the language barrier, and you are still asking them to show what they know according to your standards, but they're just matching items, and that would be appropriate for a level 1 student. So anytime you're wondering about accommodations, this could be a whole 6 hours right on its own, but I just want to let you know, if you're looking for more information about grading and assessments for ELs, our favorite work is done by Diane Starr-Fenner, Jill Kester, and Sydney Snyder. They have a lot of work that you can find on colorincolorado.org. And it's the 5 pillars of equitably grading ELs. Our consortium does come in and do a 6-hour workshop on equitable grading for English learners. And these are the 5 pillars that we focus on. The first one is make sure every day when your students come to you, they have a content standard that they are working on. And then they also have a language standard they are working on. The language standard basically means, how are they going to show you what they know? So it keeps you focused on, are they going to read something, write something, listen to something, or speak about something? Are they going to show it orally, whatever? So the content standard is the what, and it's based on state standards. And the language standard would be how. How are they going to show me? Okay. And so anytime you need a little more information on those, feel free to reach out as well. Like I said, it's about 6 hours all on its own just to cover this slide itself. But I just wanted to let you know that when students come to you, there needs to be an I can statement or something that they know that they're going to be able to do when they leave your room, and keep it real standards based and work in that language. Are they going to orally tell you? Are they going to match something? Are they going to listen? How are they going to show what they know? Okay. The next piece is scaffolding. Scaffolding is the supports. Remember, scaffolding is only needed when it's needed. You don't always need scaffolding. As their English proficiency improves, you will notice it, especially in CTE classes, you're going to notice their English proficiency improving just greatly. And the more that they learn, the less scaffolding they need. Okay. Third pillar, supporting their progress toward mastery. These students are very easily discouraged. Okay, some of these students come to you and they are used to being super successful in the school that they came from. And when they come to you and they have a language barrier, they get super frustrated. They're not going to be, showing that level of mastery that our native born students have, but they have to know that you are supporting their progress and that you're celebrating that. Find anything to celebrate, look for little things, and I tell you, just absolutely celebrate if you can. Some other students come to you, that pillar 3, and they haven't been in school for years. Maybe they haven't been in school since the 4th grade because where they lived before was too dangerous to go to school, or it cost money, or there was some other barrier to their education. They still need your support. Okay, so all of your students, just find any little thing you can celebrate and support their progress. Okay. Pillar 4 is adapting and modifying those assessments and assignments, and we kind of talked about that previously. They will need things adapted and modified. The safety test, of course, has to be given probably in its form, you know, in its whatever proper form. I know there are some that, you know, you can translate and things like that for them to pass that. But safety, obviously, you can't skip around. I mean, if it's safety, it's safety. They need to understand how to stay safe in your room. But we have to eliminate a lot of those language barriers still, if we can. Okay. And the fifth pillar would be involve your English learners. Learn their story, learn their family's story, and collaborate with your colleagues. How does it work in somebody else's class? You know, and if all they're giving you is challenges, then realize that those students are probably super frustrated. If you are getting together with your colleagues and all you hear is negative, it's time to make that switch and turn it around for those students, because if they're all feeling, if the teachers are all visibly frustrated, those students are going to start feeling super stressed, and then you're just not going, they're going to shut down. You're not going to get much out of them. They really want to do well for you, and just staying positive and collaborating positively with your colleagues has such power. Okay. Things to consider with family engagement. If you are having activities and you need, like if you're having a cultural fair or something that your students, you know, need to attend, we need to realize that transportation might be an issue. In a lot of the districts I travel to about 24 to 28 districts. Transportation is huge. Some of them don't have cars. Some of them all share one car, but many people in the family have to work. So there are just different things to consider with family engagement if you don't have these families coming to your events. Another thing would be interpreters, translation of documents. I say always have the native language, the primary language of the family on one side, but always send that English side too, because maybe they have an English speaking family helping them out, and the translation you've provided isn't exactly coming through like it should. If you have the English and their language on the same document, they could possibly, it's beneficial, okay? Another thing to think about is the time of day you're asking for family engagement activities. Sometimes that can be a barrier for them participating. Make sure you've established that two-way communication. Another thing that's been kind of fun throughout the state of South Dakota is creating community partnerships. There are a lot of businesses and community organizations that are interested in partnering with you to help make things better for your English learner community. And so just be like looking out, maybe just be an advocate for them and speak positively and just talk through some things, and you'll find some pretty cool community partnerships sometimes that can be formed that will help improve their family engagement piece. Another thing, the English proficiency courses for parents and adults. That's another important piece. I know that adult ed falls under the Department of Labor in the state of South Dakota a lot of times, but there are community partnerships often who will help set up different things for English proficiency courses for the parents. Questions on this? Okay. I did want to take time for questions on any of the activities. I wanted to leave about 15 minutes so we could go back to any one slide and talk about a topic that is like of particular importance to you in the setting that you have. So please let me know what questions you have. Do we have anything in the chat that we need to look at?
There's nothing in the chat, but feel free to type any questions or just unmute yourself if you have questions. I also love researching things for people if they have specific things. So please feel free to let me know. Okay. Nothing yet. I don't want to cut you off here. My wait time is not as adequate as it needs to be. With education, you should wait a long time to see if anyone needs questions. So keep putting them in the chat and Kara will let me know. I do want to take you back to this slide where we had our
website. The South Dakota Statewide Title III and Migrant Consortia, this website, sdtitle3.org. I don't know if hopefully it will go there for us. Okay, there it is. And most of the people on this call would be the content area teachers. And I want you to know that there are upcoming events that you can click on. And classroom teachers, if you have an English learner in your classroom this year, or you did, and you are interested in learning how to broaden your school's capacity to better serve them, please reach out to us. Okay, we have newsletters here, we have meetings, we have regional workshops, and please just reach out to the South Dakota Statewide Consortium at any time.